I 26 meters need advice about an upcoming family gathering that's making my anxiety spiral out of control. My girlfriend Emma 27F and I have been together for 4 years, meeting during our final year of college. We started as friends when we were paired for a group project in our business ethics class. I was immediately drawn to her quiet intelligence and the way she could command attention without being loud or aggressive. After a year of friendship, we started dating. The first 2 years of our relationship were amazing. Emma got along great with my family, especially my sister Amy 29F. They would often go shopping together or have lunch dates without me. My mom Sarah 55F particularly liked Emma because she reminded her of herself at that age, ambitious and hardworking. Emma would come over for family dinners twice a week, and everything seemed perfect. But things changed drastically 3 years ago. Emma's family situation at home became increasingly difficult. Her parents' marriage was falling apart, and their house became a battlefield. Her dad Jack 55 meters, who owns a successful construction company, was always working late. Her mom Lisa 50F suspected he was having an affair with his secretary. He wasn't. We found out later he was actually trying to save their failing business. Their fights got so bad that Emma would often call me crying in the middle of the night. One particularly bad night, Emma called me at 3 a.m. Her parents' fight had turned physical, not between them, but Lisa had thrown a vase at the wall in frustration, and the shattered pieces nearly hit Emma. My mom overheard me trying to calm Emma down and immediately offered to let her stay with us. Emma accepted, and that's when things started going downhill. The first week at our house was fine. Emma stayed in our guest room, went to work at her marketing job, and everything seemed normal. But my mom, being the observant person she is, started noticing things. Emma would skip breakfast saying she was running late. She'd push food around her plate during dinner but barely eat anything. She spent most of her time in the guest room when she wasn't working. My mom tried to talk to her privately several times, but Emma would brush it off saying she was just stressed about her family situation. Looking back, I should have noticed how Emma's face would tighten every time my mom tried to discuss her eating habits. I should have realized something deeper was going on. Everything came to a head during a family dinner. My grandparents were visiting, and Mom had made Emma's favorite lasagna. Emma was doing her usual routine of moving food around her plate when my mom suddenly spoke up. In front of my grandparents, my dad Mark 57 meters, my sister, and me, she started talking about how concerned she was about Emma's eating habits. She mentioned how she hadn't seen Emma eat a proper meal in weeks and how unhealthy it was to starve yourself. Emma's face went completely white. She stood up so quickly she knocked over her water glass, and without saying a word, she grabbed her keys and left. I tried to follow her, but she was already in her car and driving away. When I got back inside, Amy was yelling at Mom for embarrassing Emma, Mom was crying saying she was just worried, and Dad was trying to calm everyone down. Emma went back to her parents' house that night. Despite their issues, she felt less judged there than at our place. I supported her decision because what my mom did was completely out of line. You don't call out someone's potential eating issues in front of an audience, no matter how concerned you are. When Emma's dad found out what happened, he was livid. He called our house at midnight, and I still remember hearing my mom's side of the conversation. She kept saying she was just trying to help, but Jack wasn't having it. He called her controlling and manipulative, said she had no right to humiliate his daughter, and warned her to stay away from Emma. Emma's mom took a different approach. She simply pretended my mom didn't exist whenever they happened to be in the same place, like at college graduation or local community events. Over time, Emma and my mom managed to work through their issues. Emma recognized that my mom's heart was in the right place, even if her actions were wrong. Mom apologized multiple times and promised to never interfere like that again. They're cordial now, not as close as before, but they can have normal conversations and be in the same room without tension. But now we're facing a new challenge. Both families are meeting for the first time next week. Emma's mom finally agreed to sit down with my family, saying enough time has passed. The problem is Emma's dad. He's been making comments about finally being able to confront my mom face to face about how she treated Emma. Last week during dinner at their house, he specifically said he's been waiting 3 years to tell my mom exactly what kind of person she is. When I brought this up with Emma, her response shocked me. She thinks her dad has every right to confront my mom about what happened. She says they're all adults and can handle a confrontation. When I pointed out that this could ruin any chance of our families getting along, she just shrugged and said maybe some things need to be said out loud. The part that frustrates me most is that Emma refuses to even try to talk her dad down. She says he's stubborn and will do what he wants anyway, so there's no point. But I've seen her stand up to her dad about other things, like when he didn't want her to take her current job because it meant working with her ex-boyfriend's cousin. She stood her ground then, so why won't she do it now? I understand everyone's perspective here. My mom shouldn't have confronted Emma about her eating habits in front of others. That was wrong and potentially harmful. Emma's dad has every right to be angry about how his daughter was treated. Emma probably feels caught in the middle. But bringing up a 3-year-old issue during the first family meeting just seems like asking for trouble. My anxiety, diagnosed when I was 15, is making everything worse. I keep imagining scenarios where Emma's dad starts yelling at my mom, Emma stays silent, my dad gets defensive, and the whole thing turns into a huge fight that ruins all the progress we've made. I'm also worried about how this will affect my relationship with Emma. Part of me feels resentful that she won't try to prevent this potential disaster, even though I understand her position. My sister Amy thinks I should talk to Jack myself before the meeting, try to clear the air man to man. But I worry that might make things worse. He might see it as me trying to silence him or minimize what happened to Emma. My dad suggests postponing the meeting until tensions cool down, but Emma thinks that's unnecessary since she and mom are fine now. I grew up watching my parents maintain peaceful relationships with everyone, extended family, neighbors, even people they didn't particularly like. They taught me that sometimes we need to let go of past issues for the sake of present peace. Emma grew up differently. Her family believes in confronting issues head on, no matter how much time has passed or how uncomfortable it makes everyone. I don't know what to do. Should I try talking to Jack myself despite the risks? Should I warn my mom about the possibility of confrontation so she can prepare herself? Or should I just let things play out and hope for the best? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. Well, the family meeting happened yesterday, and I'm still trying to process everything. It went worse than I expected, but not in the way I thought it would. I need to get this off my chest because I haven't slept all night thinking about it. We decided to have the meeting at a nice restaurant downtown to keep things neutral. Everyone arrived on time, my parents and sister came together, Emma and her parents came in their car, and I got there early to make sure everything was set up right. The restaurant had given us a private room, which turned out to be a blessing given what happened. The first hour was actually going surprisingly well. Jack, Emma's dad, was being civil, no snide comments or angry looks toward my mom. Emma's mom Lisa was quiet but polite, making small talk about the weather and asking Amy about her new job. My parents were trying their best to keep the conversation light and friendly. Emma sat between me and her mom, while our dads sat at the ends of the table. My mom and sister sat across from us. We ordered drinks, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. Jack even complimented my dad on his recent promotion at work. I started to think maybe I had worried for nothing. Then came the moment that changed everything. My mom, probably feeling encouraged by the peaceful atmosphere, tried to make conversation with Emma about her new job at the marketing firm. Emma was telling everyone about a successful campaign she had just launched. My mom was genuinely impressed and started talking about how far Emma had come. That's when she said the words that ruined everything. I'm just so proud to see how well you're doing now, Emma. You've really overcome your issues with food. I knew my intervention 3 years ago would help you realize you needed help. The silence that followed was deafening. I saw Emma's hand tighten around her water glass. Jack's face turned red, but before he could say anything, Lisa spoke up. This surprised everyone because she had barely said 2 words all evening. Your intervention? Lisa's voice was quiet but sharp. You mean when you humiliated my daughter in front of your entire family? She put down her fork and looked directly at my mom. Did you know Emma had been seeing Dr. Matthews since she was 15 for her eating disorder? Did you know your little intervention caused her to stop going to therapy for 6 months? I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. Emma had never told me about seeing a therapist. She never mentioned having an eating disorder since her teens. I looked at her, but she was staring at her plate, her face pale. Then Jack joined in, but instead of attacking my mom like I had feared, he turned to me. And you, he said, his voice trembling with anger. Why didn't you tell us Emma was staying at your house during that time? We thought she was at Rebecca's place. We were worried sick about her, calling her friends, nearly filed a missing person report. My mom looked confused. You didn't know? But Emma said you knew she was staying with us because of the fighting at home. Emma suddenly stood up. Stop it, she said. Just stop it. Her voice was shaking. You all need to stop acting like you know what's best for me. Then she dropped the bombshell that made everything clear. I wasn't staying at your house because of my parents fighting. I was planning to move in with Kevin. Kevin was her ex-boyfriend. Someone I had never met but had heard about. Someone she claimed was completely in her past. The room erupted into chaos. Lisa started crying. Jack was demanding to know if Kevin had contacted Emma again. My mom was apologizing, saying she had no idea, and my dad was trying to keep everyone's voices down so the whole restaurant wouldn't hear. I followed Emma when she stormed out, but she told me to leave her alone. She got into her car and drove off, leaving her parents at the restaurant. I went back inside to find both families in complete disarray. Emma called me this morning. She explained everything through tears. 3 years ago, when she was staying at my house, she was actually preparing to move in with Kevin. She said she thought she still had feelings for him, and she was planning to break up with me. But my mom's confrontation about her eating habits triggered something in her. It reminded her of patterns from her past that she thought she had overcome. That's why she went back home instead of going through with her plan. I feel like my whole world has been turned upside down. The past 3 years of our relationship feel like they were built on a lie. My mom, who I was so angry at for overstepping, might have accidentally prevented Emma from making a huge mistake. Emma's parents, who I thought were being unreasonable, had actually been dealing with their daughter's eating disorder for years. And Emma. I don't even know what to think about Emma anymore. She wants to meet and talk things through, but I honestly don't know if I can face her right now. How do you trust someone who kept such huge secrets for so long? How do I know what else she might be hiding? Everyone's texting and calling, trying to explain their side of things. My mom keeps apologizing, saying she never would have said anything if she knew the whole story. Emma's parents haven't spoken to her since she left the restaurant. My sister thinks I should hear Emma out, but I just need some time to process everything. I turned off my phone after Emma's call this morning. I can't deal with anyone right now. I keep thinking about all the times in the past 3 years when Emma could have told me the truth. All the opportunities she had to be honest. All the times I defended her to my mom, not knowing the full story. Update 2: A lot has happened since my last update, and things have gotten even more complicated. After taking some time to process everything, I agreed to meet with Emma last week at a coffee shop near my workplace. I needed answers, and she said she was finally ready to tell me everything. The truth is far worse than I imagined. Emma spent nearly 3 hours telling me about her past, and each revelation hit harder than the last. It turns out the ex-boyfriend Kevin wasn't just any ex, he was her former therapist's son. She met him when she was 17, during one of her therapy sessions with Dr. Matthews. Kevin, who was 22 at the time, would sometimes pick up his mom from work. They started talking casually at first, just brief hellos in the waiting room. Then he started showing up more frequently, always timing his visits with Emma's sessions. When she turned 18, they began dating secretly. Dr. Matthews had no idea her son was pursuing one of her patients. When Emma's parents finally discovered the relationship, they were furious. They immediately switched her to a different therapist and threatened to report Dr. Matthews for her son's inappropriate behavior. This explains so much about her parents' behavior. What I thought was a toxic home environment was actually them trying to protect their daughter from a predatory relationship. They took away her phone, monitored her social media, and even drove her to and from college, all things I had previously judged them for. When she started dating me in college, they were relieved, thinking she had finally moved on from Kevin. But she hadn't. She maintained secret contact with him throughout our early relationship. The night my mom confronted her about her eating habits, she had been texting Kevin about their plans to move in together. She showed me their old messages from that night. Kevin had an apartment ready for them in another city. He had even bought her a ring. What stopped her wasn't just my mom's confrontation, it was the way mom said things. Apparently, she used almost the exact same words Kevin used to use. "I'm just trying to help you. You need to take better care of yourself. Let me take care of you." Mom's words triggered memories of how Kevin used to control her eating habits under the guise of helping her recover from her eating disorder. When I told my mom about all this, she broke down completely. She had carried guilt for 3 years about how she handled the situation, but now knowing she had unknowingly triggered Emma's trauma made her feel even worse. She spent an hour crying and apologizing to me for potentially pushing Emma back to her abuser. Emma's parents reached out to my mom separately. They explained how they had been trying to protect Emma while respecting her privacy. They apologized for their harsh judgment, explaining they were just terrified of Emma falling back into old patterns. My mom and Lisa actually talked on the phone for 2 hours, both crying and sharing their fears and regrets. But here's where things get even more complicated. Last week, Kevin showed up at Emma's workplace. Apparently, he heard about our family dinner drama through mutual friends. Emma's old therapist's receptionist is friends with someone from our college friend group. Kevin claimed he wanted to make sure she was okay and talk about old times. Emma immediately called the police because, as it turns out, her dad had filed a restraining order against Kevin years ago after finding out he had been stalking her on campus. Kevin left before the police arrived, but Emma was shaken. She had to tell her boss everything because Kevin tried to come back the next day, claiming to be a client. I'm struggling to process all of this information. Part of me understands why Emma kept these things secret. She was ashamed, scared, and probably still processing her trauma. Another part feels betrayed because these secrets directly affected our relationship. She had opportunities to tell me about Kevin, especially when we first started dating. I could have helped her, supported her, or at least understood her triggers better. Her parents had been reaching out to me too, trying to explain their side of things. They apologized for how they treated me and my family, saying they were just triggered by seeing Emma potentially falling into another controlling situation. They've been dealing with this for years, the eating disorder, Kevin's manipulation, the constant fear of Emma relapsing or going back to him. I don't know how to feel anymore. One minute I'm angry at Emma for lying, the next I'm worried about her safety. One minute I understand why everyone acted the way they did, the next I feel like an idiot for not seeing the signs. Emma keeps saying she wants to work things out, that she's different now, but I'm not sure if I can trust anything she says anymore. Update 3: This will be my final update. After everything that happened, I needed time to think clearly about our relationship and my own well-being. I decided to end things with Emma 2 weeks ago. The decision wasn't easy, but it was necessary. In the weeks following Kevin's appearance at Emma's workplace, things got worse. He violated the restraining order twice more. First, he sent flowers to her office with a note saying he missed taking care of her. Then he showed up at her apartment building, claiming to be a maintenance worker. The police arrested him after the second incident, but the whole situation took a toll on Emma. I tried to be supportive during this time. I drove her to work, stayed at her place when she felt scared, and went with her to file police reports. But I started noticing concerning patterns. Emma began skipping meals again, saying she felt too anxious to eat. When I suggested she talk to her therapist about it, she got defensive and accused me of trying to control her like Kevin did. The breaking point came when I found out she had been deleting messages from an unknown number on her phone. She claimed they were spam, but I later discovered they were from Kevin's younger sister, who had been passing messages between them. Emma said she was just trying to get Kevin to leave her alone, but the trust was already broken. What really opened my eyes was a conversation with Emma's college roommate Rachel. She reached out to me after hearing about Kevin's arrest. She told me that during college, Emma had a pattern of hiding things and twisting stories to avoid conflict. Rachel had witnessed Emma juggling multiple relationships while telling each person they were the only one. She would create elaborate lies to cover her tracks, then play the victim when caught. I realized that even if Emma was genuinely trying to change, I couldn't be part of her journey anymore. The constant lies and manipulation had affected my mental health. My anxiety got so bad that I had to take time off work. I couldn't sleep, constantly wondering what else Emma might be hiding. When I broke up with her, she didn't cry or argue. She just said she understood and that she was planning to move to Seattle anyway. She had already accepted a job offer there but hadn't told me yet. Even in our final conversation, there was another hidden truth. Surprisingly, our families have grown closer through all this drama. My mom and Emma's mom meet for coffee regularly now. They're both involved in a support group for families affected by eating disorders. Emma's dad apologized to my mom for his past behavior, admitting that his anger towards her was misplaced guilt over not protecting Emma from Kevin sooner. Emma moved to Seattle last week. She sent me a long email explaining how this situation made her realize she never properly dealt with her trauma from Kevin. She's starting therapy again and wants to focus on herself without any relationships. As for me, I'm doing better. I'm learning to trust my instincts more and set better boundaries. My anxiety isn't completely gone, but it's more manageable now that I'm not constantly trying to untangle someone else's lies. I won't be responding to any more messages about this situation. Some people have suggested I try to work things out with Emma once she's healthier, but I know that chapter of my life is closed. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support throughout this journey. Sometimes walking away is the kindest thing you can do, both for yourself and the other person.